Episode 1 of The Boys Season 4 opens with the titular team trying to swap what seems to be Victoria Newman's eye drops with acid. Because if she becomes blind, then she won't be able to explode anyone's heads. Annie, Huey, Marvin, Kimiko, and Frenchie are in position to begin the operation. But Butcher is out there puking his guts out. For a second, it seems like he is breaking the fourth wall to tell the viewers not to judge him for drowning in his pain in liquor, but he is actually talking to himself. Once he gains some semblance of stability, he accompanies Kimiko and Frenchie into the hotel where Victoria's election party is happening. Homelander, who seems to be disturbed by the loss of his pubic hair, walks into the party with Ryan, thereby forcing Butcher to hang back. Since Victoria needs to talk to Homelander because of his unannounced appearance, she sends her daughter, Zoe, and Ryan to the pantry to have some ice cream. Homelander knows that his rankings have tanked after he murdered a human being in public. So, he wants Victoria to use her political influence to help him out. Victoria obviously wants to keep her distance from Homelander. But, as expected, he uses the media to publicize his professional relationship with Newman so that she has nowhere to run or hide. Butcher tries to get Ryan to come away with him, but Homelander shows up and prevents Ryan from being manipulated by Butcher. He also points out that Butcher is going to drop dead any second because of the clot in his brain, and that's why he is unfit to look after Ryan. Elsewhere in the hotel, Frenchie and Kimiko's attempt to replace Newman's eye drops with acid fails as Zoe arrives there all of a sudden. It turns out that administering Compound V to Zoe has turned her into a tentacle-mouthed soup, and she is okay with killing everyone and anyone now. Kimiko and Frenchie barely make it out of there alive. While Marvin and Annie are out rescuing Kimiko and Frenchie, Newman pays Huey a visit. Huey gets Newman to talk about the failed assassination attempt, Zoe's transformation, and their past as friendly colleagues while he prepares to splash Newman with the rest of the acid. Points to Huey for trying, but apparently Newman is impervious to acid. Butcher tries to get the jump on Newman, but even that doesn't work out because she is bulletproof too. Huey thinks that Newman is going to explode their heads, but she says that they should opt for a truce because violence and revenge are not going to be fruitful. The following day, it's revealed that Marvin is officially working for the CIA. Butcher is there too because of his dynamic with Mallory, but he isn't allowed to enter the meeting between Marvin, Mallory, and Robert Singer. Marvin gets reprimanded for his and his team's failure, and he is reminded that he needs to take out Newman before the conclusion of the elections. Butcher reunites with an old friend of his called Kessler, and their conversation reveals that Butcher isn't the leader of his own team anymore. Marvin is, and while they are focused on killing Newman, Kessler wants Butcher to join him in his quest to kill Homelander. Kessler and Butcher apparently go way back as they work together in the army, so Butcher is obviously willing to consider this offer. Monique meets Marvin to tell him that their daughter, Janine, is getting violent. Monique thinks it is a result of Todd's absence. While Marvin is glad that the Homelander supporter is gone, he wonders what Monique saw in Todd. He arrives at the conclusion that Monique probably needed someone to support her and love Janine after he separated from her. However, going by Monique's expression when Marvin brings up the topic of Todd's Johnson, it seems like that was a major factor when it came to Monique's relationship with Todd. Anyway, Marvin agrees to use his resources to get Todd back because he doesn't want to see Janine choose a path of violence. Elsewhere, Homelander is battling a severe bout of existential crisis as he reckons with aging, a court case, and the fact that he is surrounded by sycophants. Deep is still clearing his name for being in a relationship with an octopus. Black Noir is back, but it's not actually Black Noir. It's a superhero who has been hired to be Black Noir because the original one is dead. FYI, it's still Nathan Mitchell who is behind the mask. Butcher flips through the news and sees stuff on the ongoing case against Homelander, Firecracker's alt-right podcast, an event called Vought on Ice, and constant vilification of the guy who threw a bottle at Ryan. As soon as he exits the headquarters, Annie points out how erratic Butcher has been and says that they should cut him loose, officially. Marvin agrees with Annie. But Huey loves Butcher too much to take such a drastic step, so he refuses to part ways with him. Butcher meets Newman at the decrepit Vought video shop, which was prominently featured in Gen V. Butcher wants Newman's help so that he can save Ryan from Homelander's grasp. Newman wants Butcher to get Huey to erase all the data he has about the massacre she caused at her orphanage. Newman basically agrees to betray Homelander because she knows that if she stays on Homelander's side, he's going to exploit her until the day she dies. By the way, in this scene, it becomes clear that Butcher has properly lost his mind and is talking to imaginary people. Huey learns that his father has suffered a stroke, Annie is working at a charity organization for at-risk teens called Starlight House. But since she refuses to put on the suit, it's running low on funds. Frenchie works there too, and he is reunited with his friend Colin, whom he knows from an Addicts Anonymous group. Well, Kimiko notices that Frenchie and Colin probably had a relationship back in the day, and this reunion is bringing back memories. Homelander is seemingly collecting his pubic hair in a jar, which is kept in a case where he keeps a photo of Stormfront from her Nazi days, a baby feeding bottle, and a sword. Then he proceeds to go to a new soup, Sister Sage, who is introduced as the smartest one on the planet. After realizing that she is indeed what she says she is, he decides that he is going to recruit her into the Seven because he needs someone to tell him the truth instead of filling his head with nonsense. Additionally, Homelander is unhappy despite being the head of Vought. The fact that he has to depend on investors and ratings annoys him. He wants to render humans meaningless and create a pure world for his son. Sage knows how genocidal that sounds, so she proposes an alternate approach that involves starting a civil war and using it to position himself as the Lord and Savior of humankind. It's a little weird that the showrunners of The Boys have chosen a black woman to be the mastermind of a genocide that a white supremacist wants, but let's see where they go with this. Huey has a heart-to-heart with Butcher, and they share a sweet hug. Annie arrives at the headquarters to take Huey home. The following day, Marvin takes Kimiko and Frenchie along with him as he looks for Todd. While Marvin keeps an eye on the streets, Kimiko tells Frenchie that if he wants to be with Colin, romantically speaking, then he should go ahead with it because he and Kimiko can't be romantic partners. This conversation is interrupted by Marvin as he spots Todd meeting with two other Homelander supporters and Sage. Todd and the fans are super excited to meet Homelander, and when he does show up in front of them, they barely manage to contain their enthusiasm. However, their feeling of joy soon turns into abject dread as Homelander orders Noir, Deep, and a train to kill them brutally, and then he leaves the room. Noir and Deep go to town on those humans, and while a train doesn't kill anyone, he does stop Todd from running away, and he ends up being bludgeoned to death by Noir. Once the job is done, Sage tells them to wait there for further instructions. The scene shifts to the courthouse, where Homelander is deemed innocent despite killing an innocent man in broad daylight. Sage gets there, dressed as a Starlight supporter, and she starts a riot. Frenchie, Marvin, and Kimiko arrive at the spot to save some of the Starlight supporters from getting lynched. Amidst all this chaos, Frenchie seals his relationship with Colin with a kiss. A train gets a text asking him to deliver the 3 dead bodies to the scene of the riot, and he has no option but to oblige. This takes the temperature of the scuffle to the stratosphere. Annie arrives just in time to save Kiara before she is torn limb from limb by a bunch of Homelander supporters. However, the damage has already been done, as Annie and her supporters are associated with 3 murders. Marvin informs Monique that Todd is dead. Ryan reveals that he doesn't want Butcher to die, which drives a wedge in the already problematic relationship between Ryan and Homelander. We see that Deep is still in a relationship with that octopus. Frenchie is at Colin's house, and he picks up a family picture of Colin and his parents, and he suspiciously puts the photo frame down, thereby hinting at a link between him and Colin's family. Huey's mother shows up for her son and her husband. And finally, we see Butcher talking to Becca's ghost, as he is still confused about what he wants from Ryan, Homelander, and Newman. Well, going by the explicit photo of someone's naked bum that he sends to Newman, he is certainly not willing to become Newman's accomplice. That said, Butcher has to work quickly if he wants to save Ryan from Homelander's clutches, because he doesn't have a lot of time on his hands, as proven by the worms crawling in his head. Episode 2 opens with a parody of The Blind Side, featuring a train and Will Ferrell, which is littered with all kinds of racist stereotypes. A train obviously calls it out, but he doesn't have any option but to do the movie because he has to do what Vought wants him to. As he proceeds to take a break to cool off for a while, Black Noir comes up to him, asking for directions. Apparently, he is having issues portraying Noir because he doesn't know what drives him. A train advises him to keep the method acting to a minimum and focus on shutting the hell up because Noir is known for not talking. The scene then shifts to Annie, who is by Kiara's bedside and watching Cameron Coleman vilify 2 black men, Benny Long and Ian Rashford, for the murders of the Homelander supporters. It's a lie because those 2 men had nothing to do with the murders, but the show is saying that when the news paints black men as criminals, nobody bats an eye because their heads are filled racist thoughts. Huey is not having a good time either because, as it turns out, Daphne is this world's version of a homeopathy expert. And she is trying to push all this alternative medicinal stuff produced by Vought in the hopes that it's going to make Hugh better. To make things worse, Daphne reveals that she has the power of attorney, not Hughie. So she gets to decide what's best for Hugh, not Hughie. This angers Hughie a lot because he has been with his father all this while Daphne abandoned both of them when Hughie was just a child. I'll applaud Rosemary DeWitt because she keeps Daphne in this grey area so that we don't know if she is genuinely trying to redeem herself or if she is just a grifter who is trying to steal everything that Hugh has. Frenchie makes up dumb excuses so that he doesn't have to hang around with Colin, even though he is injured and clearly needs some help. Kimiko is apparently taking speech therapy sessions, and they aren't going very well because the therapist is forcing her to confront her violent past with the Shining Light Liberation Army. Butcher reveals to the rest of his team that he is living on borrowed time, and Marvin throws him out of the team. At Vought Tower, Evan Lambert and Seth Reed pitch Ryan's superhero makeover to Ryan and Homelander, but the kid is seemingly not impressed by it. Sage says that they need to launch him like he is the second coming of Jesus Christ or something, because if the people see him as another product of Vought, they are not going to accept him. Homelander doesn't want to distance Ryan's image from his own, but Sage convinces him that if Ryan saves people all by himself, it's going to be better for both Ryan and Homelander. Ashley senses that her position is being jeopardized by Sage, so she tries to intimidate her, and it completely backfires because Sage is the smartest person on the planet. Deep walks in on them and tries to pitch his idea of tagging along with Ryan so as to improve his image, which has been tarnished by the bestiality allegations. Ashley shuts him down, but Sage approves of Deep's idea, and she even tries to turn Deep against Ashley by telling him that he shouldn't allow her to demean him because he is genetically superior to her. Marvin does a breakdown of a train and Sage's involvement in the deaths of Todd and the Homelander supporters and says that she is headed to Harrisburg to attend an event at the Vought Gardens, Suites, and Courtyards. So they need to go there. Hughie and Starlight decide to hang back, while Marvin, Kimiko, and Frenchie head out. We get a glimpse of the preparation for Ryan's first public crime-stopping mission, where he is supposed to be accompanied by Deep and Black Noir, and it seems like Ryan isn't really feeling it. Deep goes off on Ashley because that's what Sage instructed him to do, and also because she is the only one he can intimidate without getting killed. Homelander overhears Lambert and Reed praising Ryan while talking about how hard it is to act with older actors since they've got to erase their wrinkles and neck folds, and that causes Homelander's body image issues to spike because he knows that he is aging. Marvin, Kimiko, and Frenchie arrive at the location where they are supposed to get the drop on whatever Sage is up to, only to find Butcher there as well. They are left with no other option but to let him tag along. Butcher, Marvin, Frenchie, and Kimiko enter a canon-esque event called Truthkin. Images of children in cages trigger Kimiko because they remind her of her troubled past. She gets separated from the group and gets drunk. Splinter, who is a soup who can make clones of himself and is played by supernatural alum Rob Benedict, sets the stage for Firecracker. While she goes on some kind of bigoted alt-right rant about Hollywood, Frenchie and Kimiko tail Splinter as he leaves the room. They assume that they're going to find something earth-shattering, but they end up walking in on multiple clones of Splinter in the human centipede type situation where Splinter is touching himself while looking at a photo of Firecracker. The scene briefly shifts to Hughie and Annie, who are on a stakeout mission to see what a train is up to. They have a little tiff about what Annie should do about her superhero Starlight image, but they are forced to put it on the back burner when a train enters the scene. He is talking to his nephews about his heroics, but that's interrupted by Nathan, who is understandably angry about the fact that he did nothing substantial about the fact that Blue Hawk crippled him. Yes, a train killed Blue Hawk and then got his heart and whatnot, but it didn't bring about any systemic change. And now he is talking about saving people he didn't actually save so that his nephews see him as a hero. Nathan embarrasses a train and tells his sons to stop listening to his lies. A train exits the scene, and Hughie and Annie watch all this from afar. Back at Truthkin, Sage asks Firecracker to meet her because she wants to induct her into the Seven on Homelander's behalf. Butcher wants to nab Sage and then force her to reveal everything about her plan, but Marvin wants to keep this mission restricted to surveillance only. This leads to a fist fight between the two. Kimiko gets triggered again and creates a scene, but Frenchie whisks her away to safety. Hughie and Annie return to the headquarters and find out that a train is waiting for them there. No, he isn't there to kill them. In fact, he delivers footage of the two Starlight supporters who have been accused of killing the Homelander supporters, which proves that they were nowhere near the location where the riot was happening. Hughie wonders why he is doing all this, and a train gives a flimsy reason about not shaming him in front of his family at the car park. But I think the real reason is that he does want to do some good for his Carmarthen unity and stop them from becoming victims of systemic racism. Elsewhere, Ryan's debut rescue mission goes horribly wrong because Homelander's unscripted appearance causes him to get nervous, and he ends up killing a stunt performer. Sage, Firecracker, Splinter, and Splinter's clones ambush Kimiko, Marvin, and Frenchie. Sage tells Firecracker to treat the act of killing these three as her audition and then exits the scene. Even though Firecracker and Splinter could have easily killed the three, Splinter's salad tossing causes the clones to suffer from pink eye, and that allows the heroes to get the drop on the villains. Splinter shows off his ability to create clones, and going by the nudity and anyway, the fight enters a The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel-themed party. And although Kimiko, Marvin, and Frenchie manage to kill a lot of the clones, Splinter keeps making more of them. At one point, they do get overwhelmed by the combined might of Splinter and Firecracker, but Butcher arrives and tips the scales in favor of the heroes. Since Butcher kills Splinter Prime, all of his clones die after a few seconds. Firecracker makes a run for it, and Marvin acknowledges Butcher's decision to help them out. Back at Vought Tower, Homelander tries to comfort a distraught Ryan by telling him to be okay with killing people. Thanks to a train, the Starlight supporters are freed. Frenchie gets high and talks to Sherry about his affair with Colin. It's revealed that Frenchie apparently killed Colin's entire family. Colin obviously doesn't know about it, and that's why Frenchie feels so bad about getting intimate with him. Huey confronts Daphne about the fact that she abandoned him and Hugh and calls out her current holier-than-thou act. He tells her that if she doesn't relinquish her power of attorney, he is going to take her to court. Kimiko decides to go after the members of the Shining Light Liberation Army who are currently in New York instead of going for her therapy sessions. Butcher and Marvin have a conversation about whether or not he is integral to the team anymore. He laments about his life decisions and how he doesn't have the time to fix them. He says that he wants to do one thing before dying, and that involves saving Ryan. Marvin says that it's too little, too late, and Butcher walks away without a single word of protest.